those of you that do not know me, my name is Samantha Lake. I am CFMA's VP of Communication and IT. I have taught public speaking over the course of about 5 years. I taught for Purdue University when I was getting my master's degree, and I taught for a local community college in Fort Wayne called Ivy Tech. Since then, I have done several speaking engagements for associations and companies that I have worked for. So I am truly passionate about training and public speaking. So today I have created a workbook for all of you that we're going to run through, and it's going to talk about how you take your idea or your concept and how you can formulate that into a session proposal for CFMA's annual conference, or really any type of conference that you may want to speak at. And then we're going to go through some of the best practices for submitting for CFMA in regards to how do you submit it electronically, and what are those key features and functionality that you need to have. So what I'm going to do is in the chat, you'll all have a copy of this workbook that I'm going to share. And for anybody who's listening to the recording, I will make sure that we add this to the links provided below. But let's go ahead and let's jump into this. So on the first page of this workbook, it's just to help you stay organized. There's some important dates. So you will want to make sure your proposals are submitted no later than November 2nd at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And you will be notified whether your proposal has been accepted or declined by January 13th. And then our conference is going to happen in Denver, Colorado, July 15th through the 19th. Just some quick resources for you. The conference website is below, as is a link to the session submission page. We have a sample proposal for you to review. And then also, if you're curious to see what was offered in 2022, you can go check out those sessions with that below link. And then there's a very in-depth speaker toolkit that our education team created that you can reference as well. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact my colleague, Brian Summers, and his information is below. So the first part is to sit down with this, and I encourage all of you to print this out and start thinking about what it is that you're really good at. What parts of your jobs do you love? What do people email you or they turn to you for? I know Carol is on the call, and I know she is one of our go-to people for our benchmarking and analytics. And so that might be something where Carol's like, listen, I'm highly involved in this, so I'm getting a lot of questions on this. Or maybe it's about the heavy equipment aspects of her job. So what she would do is she would go through and say, I really love talking about this. People often ask for my help with this. And so just kind of starting to brainstorm to figure out, not defining your topic yet, just to figure out what you enjoy talking about. Because if you don't enjoy talking about a topic, it's going to come across to the audience. And I think you all have probably been in those sessions where the speaker just wasn't very energetic or lively or animated. And it's probably because they knew the topic, but they just weren't passionate about the topic. And then there's a few questions over here just to make you self-aware. Are you comfortable speaking alone? And these will come into play further on in the workbook, but just ask yourself, am I comfortable speaking alone? Can I make any sessions interactive? So I love being interactive with my sessions. And so for me, that's a quick yes, but maybe you don't feel comfortable engaging with the audience or coming up with worksheets or interactive exercises. And so maybe you would take a different approach in your presentation style. So you would select no. And then ask yourself, are you going to grow professionally from doing this? And by that, I mean, are you going to be able to fine tune your public speaking skills? Are you going to develop more confidence? Is this going to put you out there where more people are going to be aware of you and they might start turning to you? So it could open up some career doors for you as well, or opportunities to do things that you've never done. And then lastly, this is really important. It's a form of, kind of self-fulfilling prophecies, but I want you to close your eyes and imagine that you completed your presentation. How do you want your audience to feel at the end? And then how do you want to feel? And then just write down what some of those key takeaways are for you, because that's going to help, again, guide you further on in helping to figure out your presentation style, the topic, the delivery, and then the knowledge level as well. So once you went through this process, I want you to refer to questions 1 through 5. Sorry, this is question 5. It's not labeled. Oh, sorry, question 5. So 1 through 5 here. And I want you to take some of those areas that you're comfortable about talking about, or that people are turning you to talk about, and I want you to start plotting them. So for Carol, it might be data benchmarking, heavy highway, cybersecurity, HR, employee relations, and maybe suicide prevention. And so she'd take all those ideas and then she'd plot out her big ones. And then she would start drilling down. Because if you've ever done a presentation, you know something like talking about heavy highway, you could spend an entire day talking about something like that. So she would want to start now brainstorming off and saying, what aspects of this topic would I want to present on? And then continuing to do that so she feels like, all right, I have a pretty solid idea here of what I could present on. Once you have that idea, you're going to then develop it. So you put your topic here, and then you start asking yourself questions. So if I were to speak about this topic, who would my target audience be? And what would I want to talk about specifically in regards to that topic? So for me, let's say I wanted to do TikTok as my topic, right? So TikTok, my target audience, I would say for this would actually, I'd take a left turn. I'd say boomers would be my target audience because they have very little understanding about what it is and how it could be used. So for me, my presentation would be about the values and benefits of using TikTok to expand your reach to recruit the next generation into your construction company. And then why should they listen to you? So this is where for me, if I did a TikTok presentation, I would just list that I'm a micro influencer on social media, and I've been active on social media since 2004, and I've been using it to market and recruit talent for the last 10 years. So it's kind of like establishing your credibility and your expertise. Next, how would you engage your audience? So for me, if I were doing this topic, I would share several examples. There's a lot of funny construction content on TikTok. So I would show some of those examples from TikTok of how these companies are creating these videos. They're not informative videos, they're entertainment videos, but it's a way to draw people in, get them connected to the brand. That way, when they do that plug for a job, they already have like the likability factor from their audience. And then the next thing you want to do is try to organize your topic into groups of 3, right? So when you think about your outline, you have your intro, your body, and your conclusion. So in your body, what are 3 main points from your topic that you would like to speak on? So this is where you're going to drill down. And so for me, if I was doing TikTok, I would maybe say my first part would be, what is TikTok? Second part would be, how can you use it to recruit the next generation? And then my third topic might be about content creation. All right. And then after I went through that and I kind of broke that down, in my mind, what should happen after the presentation is anybody in the audience should take this information back to their marketing communication department and share with them to see if this strategy might work for their company in regards to attracting talent from a different marketing channel to recruit the next generation. So I'm going to pause here. So we have the first 2 sheets or 3 sheets, I guess, that we've talked about. Just the idea of thinking about what you're passionate about, narrowly defining those topics, and then building out that idea for your presentation. Does anybody have any questions so far over these 3 aspects? All right.
Sam?
Yes.
Hi. Kind of a question, maybe a comment. So I love this. I just love this. I use similar for my work. And I'm just thinking on this particular page with how can you engage the audience? We don't have to follow the arrows exactly, right? Like I might say, why should they listen to you? And I have the reasons that, I have expert experience in this and I'm going to share it. And then maybe the next 3, organizing the topic in groups of 3. Mm-hmm. And then maybe go to the, how do I engage the audience? Like, can I flip them?
Yeah, you could do this in any order that you want. I mean, that's the great thing about the worksheets is skip around. If you don't know the answer to something, come back to it later. So this wasn't necessarily meant to be a linear layout, just more so something that's not lines on paper, just to kind of inspire the creative aspect of your brain.
I like it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. All right, so the next, once you have, and by the way, there's like 3 or 4 ideas that you have that that you want to develop, print this worksheet a couple of times and go through this process for all of your ideas. And then you can kind of look at them side by side and determine which one makes you most excited, or maybe even turn to some of your peers or people at work and, kind of pitch these ideas to them and then get their feedback and see ways that you might be able to take it to the next level or enhance it with your peers' feedback. So the next thing you have to figure out is, based on your audience that you identified above, what's their knowledge level going to be on the topic that you're presenting? So at CFMA, you're going to have to choose between 3 different knowledge levels. We have basic, which is going to be 60 minutes in length. There's no prerequisites. And this is typically geared towards learners who are often entry level, new to the role, or seasoned professional with limited exposure to the area. So in my TikTok example, it would be a basic session because I'm not speaking to marketing professionals or probably a lot of people who have expertise in a given area. You could be a seasoned professional, but just not highly versed in the world of social media and TikTok. An intermediate session could be 60 or 75 minutes in length. Again, no prerequisites would be required. And in these sessions, you're taking that fundamental base knowledge that should already be in place, and you're going to elevate that knowledge. So this is most appropriate for mid-level professionals with either operational or supervisory responsibilities or both. So think about those as people who they don't need the basics, they're not quite at advanced, but you want to build on a concept to enhance their overall knowledge. And then finally are your advanced sessions. These are at minimum 75 minutes in length. There's probably a prerequisite or pre-reading that will be required with this course. You should have some form of engagement activity in this session. And this should focus on developing in-depth knowledge for seasoned professionals, but it could be beneficial to other people with specialized knowledge in that area. So you might have a mid-level professional, but has a highly specialized knowledge in cybersecurity. So they would also benefit from this if you were speaking or doing an advanced session on something like cybersecurity. So you will need to define this in your proposal submission. So does anybody have any questions over the 3 different knowledge levels? Perfect. So next, you've kind of developed your topic, you know the knowledge level. Now you have to figure out how are you going to deliver your message. And so we've went through and we've come up with a variety of different ways in which you could deliver your message. So the first thing I would encourage you to do is sit through here and go through each one of these and kind of do process of elimination, right? So lecture style. There are definitions down here. So lecture is exactly what you think it is. It's going to be you at the front of the room presenting and speaking and engaging on a specific topic. If you hate the idea of you being the only one at the front of the room talking to a group of people, then you would select highly disinterested. But you might really like the idea of, I like presenting with people. So panels would be good for you, fireside chat, the fast-paced learning, the think tank. So you'd select all of those, and I would kind of just gauge it because what this is going to do is it's going to guide you in the true creation of your presentation, because what you'd put together for a roundtable would be very different than what you'd put together for like a lecture or a panel. So read these definitions, think about your comfort level. How far could you push yourself outside of that comfort zone, and then choose the delivery method that's appropriate for you. I will say one thing that we don't do as much at CFMA, but I see at a lot of other conferences that's really engaging, are the fireside chats, the fast-paced learning, and think tanks. These will get your audience highly engaged. And again, think about yourself as a learner at CFMA's conference. There are certain topics where it's appropriate for somebody to take that lecture style, right? And they're teaching you. But a lot of the other topics, I mean, the engagement that I see from conference attendees, it's electric. And so think about, is there a concept where you could maybe set the stage, give some background, and maybe it's a case study. And then you break people out into groups and they talk about it and you bring them back. And then you have some experts who might talk about the case study and you just make it more interactive. That's a solid principle of adult learning theory, is for them to be engaged in the learning and for there to be a practical application component to it. So then further down, we have went through the website and we're pulling out all of the important information for you to be aware of. Just that way you're not having to go through several pages on the website. So there's a few things to keep in mind. Our conference attendees, the sessions that get rated the highest offer best practices solutions. They look at case studies, or there's audience interaction, which we had just discussed with those last, with the previous delivery methods. General members, if you're a general member, you can partner with associate members on a specific topic. So it doesn't have to just be general, or associate. If you're an associate on this call, it is always better to bring in a general member that might have some real world practical experience with the topic that you're presenting on. So keep that in the back of your mind, that if you're an associate member, you might have more credibility if you bring on some general members to speak with you. So CFMA prefers individuals to have speaking experience. However, they do select a few presenters each year that are newer to presenting, but have a compelling and engaging submission. So if you have never spoke before, please don't let that deter you, because CFMA will accept individuals who have not presented before. Just know, it might have to work a little bit harder. People are paying for this conference. There's an expectation that they're going to get the information they need. And CPE credit is really important. And so they want to walk away having that knowledge to go back and apply when they get back in the office. So don't let it deter you. Just know you might need a little bit more help, which we are absolutely here and happy to help you with if your submission is selected. Here are the kind of big, general, broad topics for submission: accounting and finance, human resources and operations, leadership and management, risk management and surety, technology, heavy highway, and specialty trade. Please note that no more than 4 submissions per company will be accepted, and speakers may be selected for no more than 2 sessions. So you can submit up to 4 per company, and you might be selected to speak for up to 2. So again, the purpose of this is to educate people. If you're an associate member, please no sales pitches, because they will not be selected. And the focus here should be helping people gain knowledge, practical application, helping them solve problems, generate new ideas. There's a lot of information. We'll walk through the submission process, but there's a lot of information that is required. So please take your time on these. Do not wait until November 1st to get your submission together, just because you're doing yourself a disservice if you wait until the last minute for this. As mentioned before, due on November 2nd. And then also please note that this conference is happening July 15th through the 19th. You should be available on any of those days at any time to present. So please, if you're going to book your flight, don't plan on coming in on, July 15th and leaving at noon on July 19th, because you might be selected to speak at 1 p.m. on July 19th. So please just plan accordingly. Maybe wait until you'll find out on January 13th if you've been selected. And if you have, just make sure you give yourself enough time to do your presentation. When creating your proposal, there's a shortened URL. So the conference programming committee has provided a sample session. So that'll be a direct download. You can see it via Word. This is a really great example of the type of proposal that the conference programming committee is looking for. So you all can check this out on your own time. I'm certainly not going to go through this, but there's a lot of the information that I provided in the workbook, and just a deeper drill down into some of these other areas. And again, you're going to need all of this information before you do your submission. So I highly recommend using this Word document, getting everything typed out, created, and saved. That way, again, you're not typing it out on a web browser that could crash. You could lose your internet. So I highly recommend doing it here, saving it, and then copying and pasting it over to the web browser when you're ready to submit your submission. Right. So again, a few things to keep in mind that they pay attention to. That your learning objectives are actionable. So you should be utilizing words like describe, identify, and learn. And also ensure that your session flow includes some sort of interactivity like polls, roundtable discussions, etc. For this session flow, you can see a strong example of what that flow looks like. So again, you have done a lot of this prep work ahead when you were developing your idea, thinking about the delivery of this. So just kind of try to visualize, create an outline. How do you want the session to work in order to achieve those learning objectives that you've listed above? Also, we are starting something new this year. We're asking you for session questions, and this is to do 2 things. It's to increase the activity within your session, but also these will allow us to take sessions and make them on demand. So a lot of times what happens in the education department is they're taking sessions and they're kind of having to rework them to make sure that they can receive on-demand CPE credit. But if you fill these out before, and you think about it before your presentation and you weave these into the presentation, now they're already built in. And if your presentation selected, they can just take that presentation. Might need a little bit of rework or additional recording, but they can take that and make it an on-demand session with very little work. So just keep that in mind, that's why we're asking for these questions, is so that we could later make sessions on demand.
Sam, can I just add that the questions should be linked to the learning objectives? That's part of the NASBA requirement. And if you need any help, contact us at Education. We'll be glad to help you.
Thank you. All right, so this is just, again, a one-stop shop for you to have everything that you need in front of you before you try to go online and submit your proposal. And then lastly, this is complete transparency in regards to the review criteria that the conference programming committee will use. So you can see the breakdown for how important these given areas are. And then lastly, if you are chosen to speak, this is the compensation structure, general members and non-member contractors. You can see what you have access to. Associate members or non-contractors, this is your area. And then if you're a session moderator or a panelist, these are the benefits that you would receive. So that was a lot of talking. Before I show you the tool that you will use to submit, does anybody want to come off mute? Anybody have any questions or want me to revisit anything? All right, hearing none. So the call for proposals, you're going to go to conference.cfma.org. You're going to click on call for proposals. And then once you're in here, again, a lot of the information that's in the workbook is going to be on this page as well. But you're going to click on submit a session. You are going to need to log in to the site. So you're going to want to use your CFMA login. So whatever you'd use to access your CFMA profile, that's what you're going to use on the site. So you can see I started testing just to get some information to include in this workbook. So I have a draft so you can save and come back to it if you need to. So once you click on that, it's going to give you an overview of who the membership is for you to better gear and target your presentation. You just click on continue. Again, this gives you everything that was in the workbook. So we're going to begin the submission. So this is all the information that it was previously stating that you're going to need. So you need your contact information. You're going to want a headshot, your biography, what type of presenting experience do you have? So go through here. If you have other experience, you can list that down there. If you happen to submit this on behalf of your boss, you can put that information in here as well.
This is also a good area to put if you've been a CFMA author.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So if you've written for Building Profits or our
Yep.
content hub.
Yep, that's a good place to list it.
Perfect. And I guess if you've written for any other industry publications outside of CFMA, feel free to list it. And I would recommend if you have a link to anything that you've written previously or any presentations you have previously, it'd be a good idea to share that information. So they do want references that they can call. So somebody who's possibly heard you speak before. And if you've never spoken, maybe you have a boss or superior and you've done presentations at work, you could list them here. If you have multiple references, please feel free to add them. If you have a co-presenter, this is where you're going to want to add their details. So if you do have a co-presenter, make sure you get all of their information before you start this. So it's going to be very similar to yours. You need all the contact information, their biography, previous experience presenting, as well as an image for them. All right, so now your format. So I know that I gave you some different options. So the way you're going to boil it down is it going to be just you? Is it going to be you and other people, or is it going to be a panel? So let's say you wanted to do the fireside chat. There's not an option for fireside chat. Just select multiple speakers. And then in your proposal, obviously, in the session flow, you're going to clarify what you mean and how you'd like to engage during that session. All right, a mini conference. So these happen the Saturday and Sunday. They tend to be 2, 4, 8 hours in length. Think about these more as like a symposium or a course. The breakout sessions are what most of you are used to attending during conference. These are the sessions that are either 60 or 75 minutes, and they run concurrently with other sessions. Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong. Do we typically have 5 to 6 concurrent breakout sessions?
Yes, between 5 and 6.
Okay. Roundtables, as we had discussed, these are going to be where you're the speaker, you set the stage, the tone, and then you have people actually engaging, bringing them back, getting feedback, and then cycling through with more questions, or however you want to structure it. But basically, it's big audience engagement. Mini general sessions. Elizabeth, I'm gonna have you tap into this because I've never, this is a new one for me. What's the mini general session?
I can answer.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, so they're more keynote speaker type speakers. So our general sessions, we usually have 3 or 4. So this year we'd like to try to do 3 or 4. They're smaller, so they're not going to have the crowds. We actually did them last year as well, but they're just the audiences will be bigger because there's only going to be 3,
Okay.
maybe 4, but yeah, so they're a little bit more dynamic.
Got it.
Are they
Okay.
more interactive than the regular general session?
Yeah, they're going to be they're exactly what it sounds. They're smaller keynotes.
Okay. Got it. And if you decide to choose like that fireside chat or the think tank, feel free to click this. This is going to be the best one for you to choose. You're going to select your category. And if what you want to do doesn't really fit with this, you can select unsure. And again, clarify that further down. The field of study, this is for the CPE requirements. So read through it, find the category that best matches what you want to speak to. If you have any questions or you're confused, maybe you're like thinking like, all right, it could be this or this, feel free to reach out to Brian and he can help you figure out which one. And Elizabeth, to my knowledge too, let's say they were selected and the conference programming committee sees it as a different field of study, they would just inform the presenter, right? We think it should be this.
Yes, because we're going to look at what the learning objectives and everything are.
Okay, perfect. And then we talked about the knowledge level, basic, intermediate, and advanced. So you would select that there. And you see that if you don't select something, it won't let you move on. All right, so this is where you're going to take your session submission. You're going to put in your title, the description. Oh my gosh, I like capitalizing H's.
Sam, you're going to need more than 200. Your descriptions need a minimum of 250 words. There you go.
Fun. All right, so that's good to know.
Because it won't let you go on without it.
Okay, so make sure you have you follow the minimums and maximums on here. And this is the session flow. This was optional, but strongly encouraged. That's where you're going to kind of think about your outline in your head. And you're going to think about how do I want my session to flow? Like, how am I going to kick it off? What's my icebreaker going to be? How am I going to transition through the body? Am I going to have different polls? Am I going to have conversations? Am I going to use a worksheet? Am I going to do a game? And then how do I want to wrap it up? So try to outline that and have an idea for how you want your session to go.
And Jenny, doesn't that help you then to work with them as far as the room setup, or no? The session,
What, the session flow?
maybe a little bit.
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
That it's going to be that's previous in there what kind of session it is. So if it's a round table, we definitely need to know that so that we can put round tables in your room. It sounds kind of elementary, but you'd be surprised. Who doesn't?
If anybody wants to get bonus points, wait, do a round table, but ask Jenny for square tables and watch her head explode.
See me go crazy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so this one, so when I was going through testing this is the one that's going to take the most time to come up with. So these are the questions that if we would like to take your session and turn it into an on-demand session for CPE credit, this is going to help making sure that your session's already set up for that type of success. So what you have to do is you have to think about questions you want to ask, and then you have to think about the correct answer. And then you have to explain why it's the correct answer. And then you have these things called distractors. That's kind of wrong answers people are giving. And then you're going to go through and you're going to give feedback that explains why that wasn't the correct answer. So a lot of thought is going to go into this section. Question to, I guess, Elizabeth or Jenny. I know that this is going to help the programming committee get an understanding of if this could be an on-demand CPE, but this does take a lot of thought, and typically you're developing this once you're developing your presentation. So if an individual doesn't have time between, the next 2 weeks or so to develop this, can we maybe let them like make a note? I know it's optional, but I feel like people should be able to say like, I'm willing to do this. I just need more time.
Yeah.
Where would you recommend they do that at?
Let me see if I can go in and put a
Maybe additional information
under the optional. Yeah, additional information. That's where I would put it. But people do need to be aware, if not all the sessions will be selected. We selected, Elizabeth, correct me if I'm wrong, 14 sessions from last year that were available for on-demand.
Yes, and that's because
all right. So not all sessions are going to be, chosen for on-demand. We just want speakers to realize that if your session is selected, that you will agree to assist in these on-demand questions, as they are required for NASBA to use these for CPE credit after the conference is over.
Right. If we do convert them, they are required, and you may have to come back and make sure that they meet every requirement. I just want to stress, from a designing your presentation standpoint, these questions need to link to your learning objectives. So if you have a learning objective that says you're going to be able to identify the different methods of cost accounting on a project, and then you would have a question that is going to relate to that learning objective. So this actually will help you make sure that you're covering your topic thoroughly enough. So you want to make sure that, oh geez, there's 4 different methods, we got to make sure to cover all different 4. And you could actually have 4 different questions. What is this method? What's the PCM method? You could have multiple questions, or you could have one that says the methods are PCM, ABC, etc., and then have a list of them. But reach out to us if you need help. We'll be glad to help you with the questions. That's the education department, or Brian, who'll get you in touch with us.
Right. And if you have a draft of your presentation or any supporting files, you can certainly upload those, so that way the programming committee can take those into consideration. All right. So then once you have input all that information, you'll be able to go through, you can review everything you submitted, double check it all. But again, if you did this in the Word doc, this part's going to be a lot easier because you've already had it in the Word doc. You've been able to proofread it, spell check it, and make sure everything is clean and as it should appear. So then when you're done, Jenny, have fun deleting this one. You're going to click on submit. That's fun. Do we not get a confirmation screen when we hit submit, Jenny?
You should. It may have timed you out. It looks like it may have timed you out.
Nope, that's it, right? Okay,
yep, that's
so it submitted it. So don't panic like I just did when I submitted and it didn't show up. When you're logged in, up here in the top right-hand corner, you can see your submission. So if you're somebody who's going to submit, 4 things on behalf of your company, you can go look at all of those submissions up here at the top.
Also realize that if you start this process and you need to take a break from it, if you at the bottom of each screen it'll say save. If you hit save, it'll bring you back to, when you log in, it'll bring you back to where you logged off. So
right here.
Yeah. So you don't have to finish it all at one time.
Right.
Also, I wanted to point out, it is when you log in at the very beginning, if you don't have a CFMA account, it's okay. You can create one. It's best to use your CFMA login information, but if you have, let's say, your admin submit this for you, she can create one right there. It's not going to create a CFMA account. It will create an abstract account, a proposal account. But by linking it to your CFMA login, you'll always have it. You'll have the history of it. So But I just wanted to point that out. You don't necessarily have to have a CFMA account to do this.
Right.
Okay.
So for anybody who was not on earlier, I just put the link to this workbook in the chat. So please go in the chat, click on that link and save it. I will also be putting this video on YouTube, and there'll be a link to the workbook there as well. But just go in the chat real quick, click on that link and save it on your browser for anybody who wants access to this workbook.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm going to turn it to those of you on the call. Do you have any questions? Are you looking for any guidance? Is there anything that you were hoping to learn here today that we did not cover?
No, I think you, at least I can speak for me, I think you've helped helped me a lot. So
Good.
Perfect. And if any of you go through the workbook, I will actually put my email in chat. From a public speaking standpoint, if any of you get stuck or you just want somebody to like bounce an idea off of, my email is in the chat. So feel free to email me if you need some public speaking help, because again, that's what I'm passionate about. I actually truly miss teaching public speaking. So more than happy to help anybody out on the call that would like some additional help.